Monday, December 29th, 2025 at 11:24 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Vince Lanci, Lanci, whatever. He's a doctor, he's an astronaut, he's a four-star general, he's a male model, eight-time Olympian, trillionaire. You guys can go to the description. You can
Former
find,
former trillionaire.
excuse
Former
me, former
trillionaire.
trillionaire, now quadrillionaire.
Right.
He employs the Rothschilds. Yeah. 13 bloodlines all lead to Vince. And you guys can go to the description. You can find the link to his podcast, or not his podcast, excuse me. You can find the link to his Twitter and all of his writing. Yeah, no, we were just kind of bantering about how much fucking weight I've gained in the last couple days. And yeah, I mean, real quick, because then we'll get into silver and China and all that shit. But yeah, I was gonna say no. I've been, I was super in shape in college. Lost my older brother to suicide in 2014. I've said it on the show a
Right.
million times. Gained like 80 pounds, and then yo-yo dieted for like 10 or 11 years. And last Christmas, I was so fucking grossed out at myself. I was finally like, no more yo-yo. And there's only two things I did. It's well, I guess three: intermittent fasting, so I eat in a 4 hour window every day.
Right.
Almost no carbs. I eat a 2 pound bag of cauliflower every day, which is like 95% less carbs than its weight in rice. And then
Right.
caloric restriction. And I've done caloric restriction before. I've done intermittent fasting. The removing carbs, or AKA removing happiness, and just filling it with like very low calorie vegetables. Yeah,
Right.
as of 2025, I'm down 52.2 pounds
Yeah, you look
in
great.
order to
It's
see.
phenomenal.
Oh, youth. Thank you.
Yeah. But
Um,
you don't have to eat all those vegetables. You could just eat steak.
Well, so
I'm
the
just saying
reason
I
no, the
have
reason I eat that shit is because it fills me up. It's disgusting. I chase like chicken or meat with in the
right.
same way you chase a vodka with soda in
Right.
college where
Right.
you're just binging. That's what I do is I take a bite of chicken and then I just like shovel 2 tablespoons of it's this riced cauliflower. It's disgusting, but it will fill you up so much you will feel like you just had a Thanksgiving meal every night for like no calories. It's disgusting.
I guess I think they say walruses or seals will eat rocks to feel full. I don't know. Maybe we should
If I
start
could
doing
get
that.
away with that, I
I would.
fucking absolutely would. I
I would.
absolutely would. But
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I guess because of I don't know the last weekend of and I don't know when it was announced, but right, so China, I saw it yesterday, said that there's going to be strict export controls on silver starting January 1st,
Yeah.
and then I don't know if it was announced yesterday or again if it just came into my sphere of consciousness. Trump said something along the same lines.
Yeah. Um, it's not new news, but I think it's important to understand it as it approaches. This is a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. I don't know if you want to. While I'm talking
Do you
to
want me
you,
to give you a
I'm trying
screen
to
share?
pull. Yeah,
I just gave it to you.
I have a story with some good graphics
Yeah,
that we could use while we're talking about this because it's actually better than anything I could say. Like,
go for it.
let me see
Yeah,
if I can find it. Hold on.
yeah. It
That would
was funny. I
be,
was looking at your Twitter all day yesterday, and I was
yeah,
just
I
it,
was
it
having a
is
good
so
time.
no, it's so funny because people were people were messaging you like, Vince, is this sarcasm or not? We need an asterisk for the sarcasm because some of it was like a noted update, and then other shit was like whatever Area
Right.
51 using silver to deionize UFO or whatever the fuck you were
Yeah.
saying. Like,
Why not?
yeah,
Why
well, but
not?
people are looking at it and they're like, which one's true?
Right. And I'm following in the footsteps of some very funny people who did that before. So uh look, I don't have the position that I had going into it. I think this is it. Hold on. Yeah, the some of the posts were legitimate and some of them were not. And I don't people that are familiar with Twitter at all or X or whatever we're calling it now. Um, there are real professional news feeds like Bloomberg, Reuters, Icon Terminal, and those are headlines that come out on these scrolling tapes, and they're in all caps. So they look like they're screaming at you, but what they are is they're really official. How do I download this? Right, they're really what they are is official. Uh,
Bulletin.
yeah, official bulletins, right? Headlines, like Dow Jones,
Yeah.
that type of shit, right? So there are guys on here who buy an Icon terminal or one of the lesser expensive Bloomberg terminals, and if there is a lesser expensive Bloomberg terminal, and they will basically copy paste. So they're kind of being like newsboys announcing stuff. And it's hilarious because all right, I got my pictures here. Good. All right. It's hilarious because uh in the financial community, that was sacrosanct for years, like in Twitter or X. You didn't violate that. If you used caps, it was
And
completely
then,
official news, you
okay,
know?
no
And
rumor, no
still,
nothing. Yeah.
yeah, you don't mess around with that. Like you're saying this is official. Like this is Dow Jones, it's Reuters, that was and that rule was never broken until I saw I don't know if you know him, Rudy Havenstein. I don't know his real name, but he's a very well known. He would be an influencer if he wanted to be. Let's put it that way. And he's named after like the Weimar banker. And he's very, very financially literate and very smart. He understands a lot of the bullshit that's going on. Not politically inclined. They try and push him one way or the other. But he started putting up these all caps posts. Now I was a newbie, and I'm like, oh shit, did that really happen? And he'd be like, no, you idiot, I'm joking. I'm like, oh, we can joke like that? Are we allowed to do that? And so I started doing it last year. So it's a it's a hat tip to the master who did that years ago and just used to fuck me up on a weekly basis. Anyway,
But
that's
I get in terms of like the sacrosanctness, it
yeah,
does, wasn't it up until like a year ago, you could just parody people's Twitters, and then they made a rule that you had to
right.
put parody in the first X number of characters so you could see it on even the abbreviated username, because people
Yep.
would get on there as Elon Musk or something and say like, you know, I don't recognize the leadership at Tesla anymore, sell it all. And then people would start to be like, wait, this is you're like, not only are you impersonating someone, but now you're giving like false, or people like they'd mimic like AOC or Nancy Pelosi. I mean, then like bad shit. It'd be like shots fired at the White House, and like so then it was like, hey, you might need a
Well, it's fun. It's kind of funny because Elon is like that, and so doing that on his own platform, it seemed like an open door after the left wing media was thrown out, and so everybody started doing that. But you bring up something that really touches close to home. Um, right right after he started, uh, it was up. Do you remember when the Saudi Arabians were accused of basically hacking someone, a journalist, to bits or something like that?
yeah.
Remember that story? Yeah, I was like, okay, so during after that time, the joke was, uh, well, someone in Japan the prime minister had just gotten assassinated in Japan, and then there was another story like a month later, less than a month later, where there was a diplomatic meeting between Saudi Arabia and some other leader in Japan. Anyway, I'm kind of stumbling over this, but the punchline's worth it. So I did the all caps thing. I said, uh, Japanese diplomat about to get hacked to pieces in Saudi Arabia. Like it was completely crass and unfunny, but it was like Monty Python meets geopolitics, and they knocked on my door. The FBI knocked on my door.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't because like I'm the biggest offender in the world. It was because, well, it was just in transition from the Twitter ownership to Elon Musk. And during that changeover, all of the official people were like on edge. And at the same time, it was a fresh news story about the Saudi Arabian
Oh,
guy and the journalist thing. And so the two guys knock on my door. One is 6'5",
yeah.
and the other guy is 5'10" and dressed like a Stanford. I'm in Stanford, Connecticut. Stanford police officer. And I'm like, okay, I know what you are, but who are you? He goes, well, did you put something on social media saying whatever you said? And I said, yeah, it was a joke. He goes, and it's funny because I understood right away what they were saying.
Yeah.
I was surprised they came to me. He goes, well, would you mind? You could tell like there was if you don't listen to me, I'm going to fuck you up. But he's like, would you mind taking that down? And I said, no. Why? Like I wasn't being defensive. I'm like, no, why? Sure, I'll do it. I took my phone out. I did it right in front of him. I
Yeah.
knew it was serious. They have business cards, FBI,
Yeah.
FBI,
Yeah.
type of shit.
Yeah.
And so I took it down and I go, why? He goes, well, you know what happened recently, right? I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm making the joke. He goes, well, you can't do that. I go, what? Why not? Free speech. I knew why I couldn't do it. It's because I use those all caps,
Yeah.
and other people look at that as real story too. And even though I have like maybe 5,000 followers at the time, he goes, you can't go into a theater and shout fire because that's what you're doing. And I went, okay. And he goes, are you planning on leaving the country? And I went, and the other guy goes, oh no, his passport's expired. Don't worry about that. We'll know if he has to leave. I'm like, holy shit. So at that point, I never went that
It,
far again. But it was during the transition.
yeah, no, I mean, like, and I've always said this, and it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever done. I went and videotaped January 6th, thinking I was going to get a lot of views on my YouTube channel. Oh, yeah,
Right?
no, FBI comes right to your door. And like immediately I knew exactly what I was like, fuck. And it
Did they
was,
really?
yeah, yeah, like a couple days later. And I was smart enough that I just knew like instead I was like I need a lawyer. But yeah,
Right.
and he gave me his card and whether or not he was lying, I don't know, but it was actually in my favor. And he was like, I have a son your age, which may or may not be true, but he goes, Tommy, he goes, you can lie to police officers. If you lie to a federal agent, you're going to jail. So he
Right.
goes, this is the card. He goes, this isn't something you can ignore like a traffic ticket. You
It's
need to
the
get back
card
to
that
this.
makes me realize that it's real. You know
Well,
what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah. And he's like, we need a copy of that video. And he goes, get your lawyer, all that. He's like, you're not going to jail. He's like, but if we don't get a copy of that video, the guys in ninja suits are meaning like FBI tactical team.
Right. Right.
And just it was like, got a lawyer, all good, everything fine. But like, yeah, no, you realize that you're like, they're not asking you. And people can be like, well, that's fashion. You can call it whatever you want. I agree. There shouldn't be government overreach. But when you're standing by yourself in the doorway and the FBI is there, you're kind of like, all right, it's sink or swim, and yes, fair, all that
Right.
shit. It was fine. And I think the guy ended up watching my podcast. But like, yeah, no, 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 no. You fucked up when you're like, all right. And the same thing. It was just like I said something, and he was like, yeah. He's like, I know you don't have like, yeah. Where I was living with my parents at the time, and I was like, he's like, well, he's like, at the liquor store, they said you're not working tomorrow, so you can. And I was like, they immediately know everything, like where you work, all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Exactly.
like, yeah, it's like, got it.
Yeah.
Hey, dead to right. The laser beads on your chest. You're like, I got it, got it.
Right. It's
It's
like the Zapruder video you could have had there if you got anything really good. Anyway,
yeah. And I didn't. It ended up fucking being nothing, but like.
did they restrict your use of it or did they just ask for a copy?
No, they were like, you can. And so the thing is I had already taken it down before like a day or two before,
Huh?
because what it actually did was I lost a lot of subscribers on YouTube because people are like, you're a fucking terrorist. I thought I was gonna like get a mind you,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
wasn't even a year old. No, it was just over a year old. Hadn't
Right.
even broken 1,000 subscribers. I was trying to
Right.
take a shortcut to get more, and I've now realized after
Yeah.
6 years, there's no shortcut. It's just daily base hits. Like,
Right.
but so I had actually taken it down purely for selfish reasons. I was like losing subscribers.
Right.
So I already
Okay.
taken it down. I think they were like, "You did delete it," and I was like, "No, that's because I'm a hollowed out human who's trying to make money and get subscribers." And they were like, "Whatever the reasoning is," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay, fair enough." So
That's good.
that was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever done in my life.
That's a good
I'm gonna
story.
turn the heater on. But yeah, no, all caps, not good. Um,
So did you give me the ability to share?
yeah, you should have it.
Let me see. Oh, you fucker. All right. Sorry about that.
You're
All
good,
right.
man.
I'm going to pop up a one picture. So I think this is, I mean, this is interesting because I've been talking about silver for the last 2 weeks and for good reason. I mean, it's the craziest market on earth right now. And but we're not going to talk about silver for silver's sake. We're going to talk about it from the point of view of of what's going on in the US from a geopolitical point of view. And even though silver is not the most important asset in the world, it is the asset that kind of the canary in the coal mine. It is kind of the asset that dies first,
Mm.
before the people do. And I mean, where should we start? Should we start with the market itself or start with
Sure.
the
Wherever you
geopolitics?
wherever you want.
Okay. All right. So for the last 2 months, silver's been rallying, and it started in roughly October. And let's start with the thing that you said. You said that China is going to be restricting exports. And the mainstream media has finally picked up on that with 7 days left in the year. And I'm not sad that they picked up on it. I'm just sad that they picked up on it so late because it wasn't getting enough clicks for them then. But what happened was China said about 2 months after we about 5, 6 months ago, we said, Trump said, silver is now a critical mineral. Now, when something becomes a critical mineral, that allows us to hoard it, that allows us to spend money on it without getting congressional approval. It's for the national security. And when that happened, it was a big deal made about it in my little community, but nothing really happened. But the price started to climb a little bit, and then there was a story that London doesn't have enough silver physically. London, if everyone's not familiar, London is like in between the east and west in terms of metal, and a lot of refineries are there, so a lot of the metal gets parked there. So you pull it out of the ground, you refine it there, you keep it there, and then someone eventually buys it. That's how the supply chain works in silver. Now, uh, so they're running out of metal, right? And there's no metal coming from Latin America to the U.S. And Trump says, finally, I think it's because they realized that they were getting their copper taken from them by China. Said, okay, silver's a protected mineral as well. And then China says in October, we're going to restrict our exports of silver. And so right away, uh, the initial reaction was, oh, China is restricting their silver. They're trying to screw us. And I'm like, no, no, this is not like rare earths. See, we do the screwing on silver. I'm not saying that we have a lot of silver, but I'm saying that we have where the silver comes from, and that's Latin America. Most of it's Latin America. China is a huge producer of silver, but their supply is dwindling. And we get into why they want the silver. That's another thing altogether. But the thing that started to happen was, you see, Trump revamped the Monroe Doctrine. You must have talked about that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Which kind of
what
ties back into our early episodes about Cold War II. It's a synonym for it, but multipolar world, Cold War II, Monroe Doctrine, it's all the same shit. It's power centers dividing into two or three.
Right, right. I mean, militarily, well, the world is dividing, right? So there's going to be more than two divisions, but right now the first division is the great powers, China and the US. And it started to happen when we sloppily pulled out of Afghanistan. The US was receding
Yeah.
internationally, it was pulling in the reins on all those bases. Can't spend the money, not getting as much dollar tribute anymore. We need to conserve our energy. We need to protect home. And there's a really good book. I'm sure some of your listeners, and maybe you have as well, read it, called the Grand Chessboard by Brzezinski. Well, it's a geopolitical book. It's by a Russian guy who talks about the world through the eyes of basically what do we have to protect. So it's the corridor in Europe, it's Southeast Asia, and it's Latin America. It talks about what our future problems are going to be, and it predicted a problem in Ukraine, and it's been spot on there. But I don't want to get off the subject. So the subject is, so now Trump's Monroe Doctrine. Do you know if he said anything specifically about Latin America in it? Because I haven't read it.
I've not.
No.
I don't know.
Right. So basically, he says Monroe Doctrine, and that the tone was the Western Hemisphere is ours, or the Americas are ours. Get off of it. Now we all know about the. Maybe we don't all know. There's problems in Canada with Chinese influence because the way their structure is, they're doing a lot of manipulation and money laundering. And I know from my Latin American relationships that China has been co-opting supply chains for the last 15 years. So they sent a guy into Trinidad or Tobago 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they say, we're going to build you a hospital here. Would you give us access to your oil, to drill for it? So basically, infrastructure for resources, which is really not unlike what happened in the past. You go to Latin America, that's what you do, and you partner with a warlord. So China has been doing that for the last 15 years. Soybeans from Argentina, soybeans from Brazil, oil from Venezuela, oil from Guyana, and oil from Trinidad, and silver from Mexico, copper from Mexico, Peru, Colombia, all those areas, and what have you. And so they've cemented these supply chains. Now, the reason silver is the canary in the coal mine concept, or the first thing to move, is because for the last 5 years, China's been here. I'll put that picture up now. Now that picture will matter. It will matter. China has been doing this. Now, it's nothing illicit or inappropriate. They're certainly allowed to do it. China has been going to, and every country does this that has to. China has been going to Latin American countries and saying, we'd like to buy your silver or your copper, but we're not going to buy it refined. We have our own refineries. We'll refine it for you. We want to buy something called concentrate, which is basically bags of rocks with a high concentration of metals in it, right? Or doré bars, which are semi-refined, gold and silver mixed together, and you just have to separate them. And so China is buying them for years. And a lot of the Latin American mines have stopped hedging. Most of these mines, when they have a finished product, they will hedge it through an American bank on an American exchange, or literally deliver it to London, where that's where the metal's stored. And but that's been slowing down, but the price wasn't reflecting that. So over the years, China has basically hollowed out the underbelly of the U.S. by co-opting its supply chains, and that's we deserve it because we didn't give a shit. Now we give a shit, right? Okay, so Monroe Doctrine, silver starts to rally. Uh, then the U.S. basically blockades Venezuela,
Yeah.
right? Right. So I'm looking at silver purely as a silver geopolitical thing going on. It's, they're kind of screwing with China there. And then I talked to a buddy of mine who's out of Hong Kong, but he understands the oil side as well as I do, but he understands the geopolitical aspect of it. He goes, everybody's talking about Venezuela, and I go, yeah, I think they're blockading Venezuela because that's how you start a coup in Venezuela. You cut off the oil out, and it doesn't hurt them economically enough. But what it does do, this is from a source that actually was there. He said, well, in order to keep the peace in Venezuela, Maduro has to pay his generals, right? You have to keep the military on your side. And so every so often, a tanker of oil leaves with the general's name on it. The money goes out, the oil goes out, the money gets paid for, it gets put in an account, it gets laundered, it goes into the Caribbean, it goes to the US, and then back somewhere else, something like that. Um, so what Trump is actually doing, whether it's his idea or not, I don't know, but it's actually quite smart. It's probably going to, if it continues, it will expedite a coup or destabilize Maduro because the military guys will walk away from him. I mean, is that something that you would think?
Yeah.
So with that happening, my buddy says, that oil that Venezuela is selling, they can't sell it. You know who buys that? I'm like, I don't know, everyone. He's like, China. China's the buyer of oil. So at the same time that there's no more silver available for China in Latin America, this happened about a month ago. Um, at the same time that Venezuela is being blockaded, at the same time that we're constantly berating Brazil, having already done our own little landing pad in Argentina, it's like we're turning Latin America into the Middle East. Argentina is Israel, Brazil is, I don't know, maybe Brazil's Iran, I don't know, and Venezuela is Iraq. It's the whole don't tread on me Gadsden flag just moved to Latin America. And silver, to give you an idea of how bad it was, Um, Silver went from $40 during the first part of this to $50. And then at $50, it stopped because everybody thought, oh, that's really high. And everyone started hedging. And then fast forward to 2 nights ago, it went from, it went up 10%, $70 to $80, basically. I mean, about 10%. And then Sunday night, last night, this just happened. The market opened up um, 79, 84, up $4 roughly. So to give you an idea, like that's like the equivalent of oil going from uh, $60 to $90 in 1 hour. Like I'm sorry, that's a bad example. It's from $60 to $70 in 1 hour. Same idea, because they're basically the same price now.
Yeah.
And that's a geopolitical instability that nobody ever sees coming. And it was coming because China is kind of in a, this is my opinion. I have no real evidence of this, but China is kind of in a panic. I wouldn't say it's a panic, but China recognizes that they're not going to be exporting silver, but that's not to kill us. That's to protect from us because we're throwing them out of the Americas. I think influentially we're doing that. And part of that is getting rid of them co-opting our supply chains. And this was like my opinion and my theory. And this guy, Eric Young's theory, he's someone you would consider having on if you want to talk geopolitics with Asia. Um, and then I get a call last night from a friend of mine, actually Chris Marcus, and he explained to me he's got some big news coming from a Latin American miner. And so last night I get on a call with him, and the Latin American miner, who's tiny miner, tiny, good guy, but tiny miner, he says he was called by China through the government, through the local government in Peru. It's public. And they asked him if he had any metal to sell them. And he didn't, because that's not the way his operation works. But they were like, well, where's it trading right now? It was like trading $77 at the time. The Chinese national was saying, I'll pay up to 83 for it. So the market is here, and the buyer is going, how much,
Yeah.
how much for that Sony PlayStation? How much for those Air Jordans? I'll pay double, that
Yeah.
type of thing. And he didn't have any, but he's a small miner. And for them to get to him means all the big guys
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
right? So I think geopolitically we are looking at a complete, cementing of the division between the U.S. and China and probably the rest of the world. So I just wanted to start off with that.
Sure. Yeah, no, by the time they get to him, it's like in college, you call the guy that sells you weed that you haven't talked to in a year, and he's like, "Why are you calling?" And then it's like, "Well, all the you don't say it, but it's like, yeah, well, all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
guys I called aren't, why are you calling me? Well, it's 3 days before finals, and no one has Adderall. What do you have? Like, it's but
Right.
that's, but that's very indicative
Yeah.
of, yeah, it's, and in turn, from what next to nothing I know about silver other than, solar panels and whatnot is it's a better heat conductor than copper. Copper is a great heat conductor and it's cheap as dog shit. And for
Right.
most things, that's fine. Your gaming computer, it radiates, your pipes, it's fine. It's like, well, then why would you spend so much extra to transfer heat just a little bit faster? Well, when it comes to AI superclusters and hyperclusters,
Right.
they do want the edge, and they look at it as it's the next Manhattan Project. So I think that's in my almost functionally retarded opinion. That's what I think it is. And I know that I know I'm on as much steady ground here as I am like talking to Delta
No,
Force
but
guys about how to rate a compound. I don't know what I'm talking about.
right.
But that's the
Well,
only reason why you'd want to that cutting edge when you look at XAI versus Grok versus Copilot versus DeepSeek versus ChatGPT. It's all
which
about who has an extra, it's 100,000 GPU cluster, who can get 105, who can get 110. So once you start looking at that, well, then you might start saying, okay, we can't get 100,000, we can get 80,000, but the heat efficiency is twice as good, so it's actually 160. Now you're getting into you know,
right.
the same reason why I think sunscreen, no, mosquito repellent in 1958, 1959, no one
Yeah.
could get it that summer. because it had a crucial ingredient that was used for the special fuel that was used for the U-2 spy plane. Once
You mean
they
like DDT or something?
it had something,
What do you
it
mean?
had some chemical that was there, and no one knew
No
why,
kidding.
and it was classified for 50 years. People were just like, "Yeah, I can't find mosquito repellent this summer," but it was because why is it? Because once it became a national security asset, Eisenhower was like,
Right.
"Yeah, take it all. People are getting bug bites this summer. Fuck off!" Like, so
No
once it
shit. I didn't know
once it
that.
leans into that military claw,
Right.
that's when it goes up, in my humble opinion.
No, no,
Something
no. I
has
mean,
happened
I
with
mean,
it. Yeah.
let's speak directly to that. I mean, you're talking about AI, and what you're really talking about is, I guess, DARPA, right? I mean, when you think about it that way.
What
Um,
would even just don't even hang your head on AI. Just the next cutting edge military supremacy technology.
it's not discussed specifically, but silver is heavily used in missile technology because you need that nanosecond.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't
in the nose
you
cones
can't
of
have a
cruise
delay.
missiles. Yeah.
Right? You can't have a delay with copper from one place to the other. You need something faster.
And you're dodging, nation states, air defenses and
Right.
stuff.
Not to mention, I think they use it as kind of a. I think it's going to be heavily used in drones as well, or important drones. So, for example, the Faraday cage concept. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure silver is being used as a Faraday cage on these missiles to make sure their guidance isn't jammed. I mean,
sure.
it has to be. It has to be. Which, speaking of the military, so while I have all this theory about what's going on in Latin
And that's
America,
sorry, I was gonna say, and then think about sorry to interrupt, but when you look at something like a cruise missile, when it does blow up, that silver's not recoverable. It
no,
is not at all financially profitable to recover it's still there, the conservation of mass.
right,
So imagine how much money they'd put into something that they don't have to destroy, like some centralized supercomputer that you're not worried about, in the middle of the United States. You're not blowing it up. You're not worried about,
yep.
even on an aircraft carrier, it could still eventually fall into enemy hands. It's unthinkable, but imagine how much you're willing to pay for something where it's like, yeah, we're not losing that.
Well, it's funny you say that because on the technology front, uh, it was announced, I think less than like 2 months ago, that Samsung, which is in the silver world and in the AI world, Samsung's on the verge or the cusp of a solid state battery, which is going to use silver to replace lithium, and it'll be better. It's hard. It's a hard battery. It holds charges longer. It charges faster, et cetera, et cetera. And they have that. That's done. It's just not
Yeah.
scalable yet.
Yeah.
Well, they just cut a deal with a Latin
With it.
American mine,
My buddy sent me that article yesterday. You guys can
private
have the
production.
first 2 years of production. Give us the mine.
Yeah, exactly. So they went in there and basically they're like, screw the market. We're just going to
Yeah.
buy it direct. I mean, you're probably going to see like you don't see Elon Musk talking about silver except to say
Last night.
yesterday industrially. I'm like, yeah, that's because he's buying the shit out of it. I mean,
It
who's buying
seems
more silver than Elon Musk?
It seems like it was kind of a game of musical chairs where all these nation states, corporations, but also nation states, kind of had a vested interest in it staying low because they were all very quietly putting put it into batteries, put it in this, and then once somebody said, what predator, now the herd is just going insane.
Right. The prisoner's dilemma is just broken. You're
Yeah,
like, all right, there's no honor among thieves when
no,
there's no silver left. And
no,
and that's where we're headed. I mean, you know what's going to happen 5 years from now? They'll say, okay, we have figured out the graphene thing, and we can use graphene, which is like an even better conductor. We'll use that, but they haven't figured that out yet. In the meantime, it's like silver or death.
yeah,
It's the same idea. The other thing I wanted to say is now, with all my pulling out of my ass opinions. I'm familiar with the Caribbean, not deeply familiar, but enough to know that, like, I'm familiar with, I used to have a house there before the divorce, right? And during that time, it was apparent between, say, '08 and 15, it was apparent that there was a growing influence down there. And I haven't been there in a while, but I still have friends. And someone contacted me from there, one of the islands, and he goes, there's a lot more military down there than there has been. I said, and I'm like, naively, I'm like, yeah, well, that's because they're near Venezuela. I'm like, yeah, that's because it's the Venezuela thing, yada, yada, yada. And you're probably going to be parking them there, and they're probably going to be eating all your food like the military does. He goes, no, no, there's something different. There's, uh, they're going around checking to see donors in hospitals and other areas on the islands that are not American. And I'm like, so what? He's like, well, he goes, we've had a lot of Chinese and Russian people come here, retired KGB and Chinese industrialists opening up shop here. And the guy talked to, my friend talked to someone uh, down there in the military. And the paraphrasing him was, we are now motivated to remove all Chinese influence in the Western Hemisphere. That was the phrase, something like that. And so I went, oh, there you go. That's why silver's higher. That's why Venezuela's blocked, because it's a twofer. You get Venezuela to collapse, you also deny China cheap oil, and we get cheap oil. It's fantastic. Let's see if it happens.
Well, and with again, and all of my military wisdom,
Of
but
course,
I mean,
more than me though.
yeah, I should dig up the old thumbnail of you and I in the general uniforms and use that one.
That's a
But
good one.
like, but yeah, no, it's if you're overstretched, it's you can continue to stay overstretched, then you collapse. Or the other move for empires is to reel it all back in and quadruple down on what you know you need and what you can control. So instead of having 800, again, very loosely, instead of having 800 bases worldwide to kind of influence your control, or you can bring it back to the Western Hemisphere, you can turn it into an impregnable fortress, and you're just kind of saying, okay, so now we're denying Chinese assets here. The flip side is also it's like, and we're kind of telling the Europe and Asia like, hey, they're gonna China's gonna eat you now. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we're the military bases, right? I mean, Biden screwed up the Afghanistan pull, but that was us kind of like not retreating. What's the word? Retrenching, rethinking our geopolitical power. I mean, look at this war in the Middle East. We have a war in the Middle East that the U.S. is not stopping, not putting boots on the ground, not containing it. Maybe we are containing it like in a hockey fight sort of way, but Israel's like, we got to take care of ourselves. You guys are leaving, so please give us some latitude. In Europe, same idea. We're not stopping it. We're financing it. Like, I mean, it's like while at the same time NATO's being weakened. The whole world is just, falling to regional powers. There's going to be regional power, I think.
And then had on the intelligence guy last week that I've had on a million times, but he said because I was kind of asking him like, what do you see? I think like just like with you with like precious metals, I can ask you, I'm like, what canaries do you see? Because I don't see
Right,
them. I was like, what do you see as like a former Intel guy? And so we have, I guess, several major hubs, and it's the U.S. military's hubs for that continent. You have AFRICOM,
right.
CENTCOM, AsiaCom, whatever. We're moving almost all of those back. Where we're
Oh yeah,
moving, that we're taking the import. So the last 25 years, it's obviously it's AFRICOM, right? Because that's Middle East. Like,
right,
we're moving all of that back. Not the actual physical location, but all of the importance is now coming back
right.
to CENTCOM, which is
Scaling it back, right. So,
this
right,
continent. So
right,
that's a huge thing too.
right. So we're centralizing command
Yeah.
even more, even more,
Yeah.
even.
It's the downside to sacrificing the other stuff is you're putting like a fifth padlock on your own door. So it's a it's a trade-off.
No, that's and speaking as a patriot, it's like, well, look, you guys don't want our dollars anymore. Well, then you're going to have to lose our policemen on the corner too.
Yeah.
Similar, I
It's
mean,
a
that's the American spin on it.
well,
Yeah,
it
it's
is,
exactly
and and it's sure there's warranted criticism about our printing and everything, but don't remember there's you guys were getting something out of it, and you have been for the last 80 years. And that's why I always fucking hate when people are like, well, in Europe we have social nets. It's like you don't. You guys have one aircraft carrier combined. We have 13.
right. Yeah,
We have NATO. NATO's America wearing a different hat. Like
yeah,
so all these things you have, it's been subsidized, and then you go even further, and people go, well, Europe does pay a lot. We buy fighter jets and everything. Fair, but you don't do the R&D on them. Who do you buy them from? It's
yeah,
it's not the same for me to go to Walmart and buy a chicken breast. Okay, sure, yeah, I did pay for it. What if I also had to just figure out how to raise chickens? That's
right,
an entirely different burden.
right.
And so no, no, that the flip side is hey man, you don't want the dollars, fair, fine, good luck.
Well, that's they're staying with that vibe. There's two things to add to it. One is your point about Europe. You know, Europe's I'm throwing numbers at you that are approximate, but they're pretty good. Europe's GDP, it's the percentage of its spending on military was like 1%.
Yeah,
Okay, of all of Europe, whereas ours is between 5 and 10. I don't know what the number is, but since Trump has pulled in the reins on NATO funding, all of Europe has essentially, you could see it in Germany, right? It's the easiest one to see in Germany. All of Europe has basically said we now have to spend 5% of our GDP on military. Maybe it's 3 or 5%. But here's what I think the left like misses. And when I say left, I mean the European socially democratic left. They've been saying the European culture, the welfare state, and it's functioned very well until recently. Well, why has it stopped functioning? Because now they have to, all that money that they spend on giving people free college is, I mean, I'm generalizing and I'm simplifying, okay? I know that I'm coming across as, overly patriotic, but I am. But the more the less money they have available to spend on college for people, which is great, okay? The more money they now have to spend on building their own military. They have to spend money on their own defense. And you know what? The United States, at the risk of sounding completely like, jingoistic, the United States financed Europe's great welfare state. That's my comment about Europe. And now they have to finance it as well. I know that we abused the privilege all over the place, no doubt there. Now let's go to China. We abused BRICS privileges as well. There's no doubt about that. Financial colonization. But 5 years from now, when there's another problem in China, assuming that there isn't a problem with Taiwan, which is also going to be a problem, but once we pull out of there and all of Asia is now looking for someone to mitigate a Shia Sunni war, China doesn't do that shit. China sits back and China's like, well, I don't care. And meanwhile, the US is going, hey, China, you're going to start caring if you want to do trade with them. You're going to start doing that, or they'll be knocking on our door again. I think China's in for a culture shock if it wants to become a regional power. Anyway,
I don't, in my own personal, you don't need to qualify being nationalistic or jingoistic. There's nothing wrong with it. And even if people who
right,
go, even if you want to point out the rationality of it doesn't, you don't have to want a tribe, but if everyone else has a tribe, you better fucking get one. It doesn't matter what your IQ is. It reverts back to caveman. So first of all, there's nothing wrong with that. Second of all, no, we have funded all of it. We have financed all of it. And did we abuse it? Sure. Find a world power or find a hegemon in the history of man that hasn't abused it. And then what you have to do is go, okay, well, let's find the one that abuses it the least. You're never going to find
right,
the perfect home. You find the one that is the least worst. You gotta like it enough.
right,
Okay, least worst. So America's going to abuse it. What a wake up call. The power abuses it. Well, the
right.
next one's China. Best case, they don't abuse it and, run roughshod over okay, what are they going to do? They're going to sit back and go, yeah, we're not doing that whole expansionism thing. Now you're all fighting with a bunch of other places. Hey, man, new boss, same as the old, which one do you want?
It's the same thing. You're
Just
absolutely
fuck
right.
off. Yeah.
Absolutely right. In fact, the China economic model is our model with an authoritarian government. So the Belt and Road Initiative, like from following gold and silver and the Chinese monetary geopolitics, it's kind of like this. They've been building factories
Hmm.
and they've been selling stuff to us and they've been earning their money that way. And then what they've done is they basically, uh, because of their power, they've shut down the factories that compete with them locally, not all of them. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, Vietnam, if you don't have a furniture factory anymore, you can buy your furniture from us cheap. And so all the manufacturing is concentrated in China, uh, which then makes them dependent on them. And then they say, okay, let's use our currency. And then when you want to buy Chinese furniture, you have to use their currency. So they're seeding they're colonizing by making everyone use yuan, not making, but having them use yuan. They've already taken the manufacturing ability, kind of like what they're doing with us. And so the whole thing is like instead of, but they're not going to be cops about it. They're just going to, anyway,
No,
I think it's going to be very
it's
interesting.
it's well, why are they doing that? Okay, well, again, take the history of mankind, that little asterisk. If they're not going to
Right.
do it, if they're fucking you financially, hey, buddy, that's the nicest thing they can do. Because
Mhm.
if you don't do it that way, they're gonna do it through tanks.
Right.
Again, oh well, they're abusing it. This is what hegemons do. Now it's very easy for the last 80 years to say, "Hey, America's the least worst hegemon." Well, now you're getting to see it. It seems like you want it. Now you're gonna see it.
Be
You,
careful what you wish for. Right.
yeah, yeah. And well, America, you're gonna pay for it. No, 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 no. We're gonna just take this hemisphere.
Yeah.
God bless.
We'll make Canada's life a little bit more difficult, but
Yeah,
we're okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck off.
Absolutely.
What do you think is happening? It's
Yeah.
Hey man, it's just what it is. I'm not saying it's objectively there should be no murder. We all sing Kumbaya and everyone. Okay, I
Right.
get it. But now we're going back to fucking free will. Like fuck off.
Right.
This is just what it is, man. And the fact that it's happening now, this isn't a withdrawal from a base. This is a restructuring of the global order, which means we're not doing this on a whim. This has been on some doctrine binder probably since like the 70s. In the case of X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
we will do A, B, and C. And this isn't moving an aircraft carrier group. This isn't building a base. This is a decades thing where we're going, yeah, all right, fuck all of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck.
You'll miss me when I'm gone.
Yeah, good luck.
That's right. That's right. So in a sense, and I don't mean this literally, but in a sense, we're at a from the economics point of view, we're at an era that's very similar to prior to World War One, in terms of the world was global. It was like a European world, but the world was global. You had the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and those empires were collapsing, and they were basically decentralizing. And in the decentralization, you had nations being born, and all that shit. But during that time, it was like somebody got left out. And that's what somebody got left out, Serbia, on their resources. And so that, landlocked country, you know, caught between a rock and a hard place. And so they said, all right, fine, then I guess I'm going to kill some people to fix it. And I think as libertarian as I am, I think that even though the US and China are adversaries, not even frenemies, adversaries, they both recognize that they don't want it to all blow up. So there's going to be little squabbles about silver or oil or Venezuela. But, the alternative is war. And I think that's what we have to be careful of.
And that's why I think it's Cold War too. It's the fact that we haven't had all out total war is not that there's been a sudden change in mankind's brain wiring over the last, with the history of not even, I've been saying history of man like 10,000 years. Let's not even do society. Let's just do like Homo sapiens, last 100,000, 200,000 years.
Right.
Well, why, how come there hasn't been an all out total war? There's been Vietnam, Korea, blah, blah, but relative total war, a World War II where there's 85 million dead. It's because we all have thermonuclear weapons. And it right after World War II, when we are the humanity as a whole is in the most bloodlusting, you know, the adrenaline's still pumping, even though the fight just ended. We immediately went to a relative peace. Why is that? Because we could all vaporize each other. That
Right.
is going to continue. It continued with the evil Soviets, and the Soviets did it with the evil capitalist pigs. As much as we hated each other, no one pressed the button because then no one wins. That's the same thing that's happening. And it's what you and I have said. It's best case scenario is Cold War II.
Cold War II. That's right. Best case scenario is Cold War II. And something that you had said that I really hadn't thought about at the time, but I have been since then. Great progress is made when you have an
It's
enemy or
the
a
best.
combatant. And
It's
so
the best.
we're going to space, we're curing cancer, whatever we're doing. If you got to keep up with the Joneses or the Chinese Joneses, and they've got to keep up with us, it's like it's good. It could be good. There's good benefits.
I think I think it's when we do our best as a
Yeah.
species. It's yeah. It And again, the argument's like, well, how come we don't do that stuff in peacetime? Because we don't. I don't have the answer. How come he didn't give all his money to cancer research? Because he didn't have to. It's just the history of man. Why are they
Right.
competing and doing better? Well, now they want to outdo each other. It's just competition. It's just,
Right.
it's just what it is. They did it with the Manhattan Project. They took two
And
different
people don't
labs.
understand that competition simply brings out the best in you. There could be unhealthy competition, but you know,
Uh, In the Manhattan Project, when developing A bombs to win the war, they still
right?
pitted labs at one another. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Lawrence Livermore. Even though
Yeah,
they're on the same team doing the classified stuff to beat the Nazis and the Japs and whatever, they still did competing labs because even the smartest physicists in the world, they
yeah,
still have that. They still got that caveman gene where they're like, "Yo, fuck them. We're gonna get it
that's right.
first."
I want to be first. That's right.
Exactly, and that's what it is, man. And you know, I'm not surprised by any of it. And for every tit, there's the tat.
Right.
I would imagine as we get bolder with South America, China might get, or we might allow China to get bolder with Taiwan. That's the other
You
thing.
know, I think that's a trade-off. That's a good trade-off. I think I think look, ultimately from my resources in Taiwan and mainland China, that's where they won't bend. They won't bend on Taiwan. Now, forget about, I'm not saying that will bend, but if you think about it, it's like Taiwan is, to them, they're Chinese. So it's really just an island off of the coast of China that we own. And if we stop them from slowly encroaching on it, well, that's a problem. And it's going to be a human rights issue, I think. But Taiwan for them and Latin America for us. Yeah, and Japan's probably shitting themselves now.
Again, man, it's yeah, us moving on this is in a sort of passive way, allowing them to move on that.
Right.
You guys are doing this. We're doing this. Russia's doing that. There's a restructuring going on. Israel's just straight, they're like, we're just gonna bomb everybody. Russia's like, we'll kill 2 million more of our own men. China's like, yeah, we're gonna kind of take this shit. And we're going, yeah, we're gonna send all of our, it's the biggest military buildup since 2003 Iraq is off the coast of Venezuela right now.
Yeah,
This isn't bluffing. This is a restructuring.
right. Yeah. You know you know what I'm starting to see? I mean, I saw it like last year, a couple of years ago, but it's starting to be like every there, you know, the DMZ, demilitarized zones, you know,
Mhm.
between North Korea and South Korea. Well, it looks like every hotspot in the world is going to have a DMZ. You know, Ukraine is the dead zone between Russia and Europe. Whatever the area is around Israel, that's like the buffer. Don't go there. You know, with Syria, part of Syria, Lebanon, all that shit. It's like stay out. And uh, uh, we're doing that with Venezuela now. We're putting up our own dead zone, I think, surrounding them. That's what Argentina is about. I mean, we put Milei in office. I mean, democratically, but we put Milei in office, and we're happy that he's down there.
And I
You're right.
mean, think about why is it that we're now, designating these cartels as terrorist organizations? Do you think we
Yeah.
just got some piece of vital information? No, we've known it forever. Well, I would imagine most of it's because we've probably co-opted it with the CIA, but
Right.
it's back to the thing. It's like when there are cartels and gangs, it's actually more stable because you know where the power is. We probably knew China was using them, and if you went to the CIA, they'd be like, "Yes, because we're doing what X, Y, and Z." And
Right.
the fact that we're now going terrorist organizations, that to me is again, we're going fuck all of this. This is ours, which is also a conscious admission to, and China's going to start saying, whatever, no Western influence in these countries. Things that we kind of all let slide before, we're not
Yeah.
letting slide anymore.
I know. I know. You know, speaking of China spreading influence, I'm going to throw this out. It's like a 2026 prediction that won't happen until 2030 if it happens at all. Based on the demographics and the birth rates in Asia, I would not be surprised if 5 years from now, North Korea is held out. I'm not saying they're doing what they're doing well, but North Korea is a feasible uh, partner for South Korea. Why not? I mean, South Korea is going to be abandoned by us. They're starting to store their gold in Asia. They're buying their gold in Asia. They have to get along with them, and they're all Korean. I think ideology stops where geography ends. I think, North Korea and South Korea getting together under the missile guy, Rocket Man. That would be funny. Anyway,
Yeah. No, I think it's, and I gotta be honest, just from the most purely selfish point of view, but I don't think it's a bad selfishness. Yeah, I'm also okay with, because it's one thing to say America's financing all this or we're sending web.
right,
I'm 35. You're sending a lot of dudes who are half my age to go take a bullet to the fucking face.
right,
On a very real level, I'd rather that here, worst case in this hemisphere.
right,
On the deepest level, I don't I have a lot of friends that are veterans, same age as me. I have nuclear family, parents still together, private country club growing up, private Catholic school. I've had an incredible life. It's not just a war. We go, oh, it's the war. It's a bunch of dudes who are the best of us because they think they're defending this country. Those are incredibly brave characteristics, and they're fungible for horseshit wars.
right,
So on a much deeper level, aside from the, well, you should have liked this, blah blah, all the world police stuff aside, fuck all of you. Take care
right.
of all of your own shit. I welcome this with open arms. Fuck off.
Yeah, we've gone from like I remember George Bush saying we got to fight them over there before we fight them over here, and now we just don't want, now it's like keep off, don't tread on me. So charity starts at home, so to speak.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
fuck off, man. I mean, 1993, Gothic Serpent. Why did we go into Mogadishu? Why did we send in Delta Force and the Rangers to kidnap or not kidnap to arrest ID'd the warlord? Well, why are we doing that? Well, because he was the biggest war clan, and what they were doing is they were taking all the rice and the water that the UN was sending to help a famine. We went in there, and what did they fucking do? They killed 18 U.S. soldiers. 30
Right.
years later, when we're talking about how Somalis don't give anything to the United States, they're posting pictures of the soldiers who were dragged through the streets saying, this is what happened the last time you messed with us. We went in there to stop the thug from starving you retards. And you're
Yeah,
bragging about killing the cops that came to help you. Fuck off.
right.
Fuck off. I don't I don't care if we have the ability to project global power. I think we should do hemispheric on principle alone. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I think
All my
we
opinions
have
represent me
we
and
have
it's
the
very
resources.
yeah.
We have the natural resources. We have the resources. And apparently the rest of the world seems to feel like they've outgrown the training wheel. So fine.
God bless. It's going to end horribly for all of you. It's
Right.
I'm saying it sarcastically. I hope it works. It won't. It
Right.
won't. Best case scenario. Best case, you become a satellite nation of China. That is
Yeah.
Well, why is that best case? Well, the other is that you guys devolve into anarchy and chaos until you become a wasteland and then eventually become a satellite nation of China.
Right. It's funny, right? Without the rule of law. People, I don't think people, I mean, I don't think people understand that China, I mean, about what you're referring to is national pride. Like talk about fascism, nationalism, those type of things. And I don't think I think the West underestimates extremely the changes that have gone on in China. During Mao's regime, it was all about kill your elders, rebel against everything, no government, no tradition. So they took the Confucianist way of thinking, which was, kind of like the Chinese version of the Protestant work ethic in the US, and they fucking threw it out, killing older people, go with the youth, the Mao Zedong stuff. And of course, 50 million people. I mean, more people than, Hitler and Stalin combined, I think. He
Almost
killed
ten,
everyone.
yeah,
And so,
almost an order of magnitude more than Hitler.
yeah, it's unbelievable. And they were his own people. And what's come out of that since we partnered with them in '76 slowly under Deng Xiaoping and then Xi Jinping, is a country that has rediscovered Confucianism. It's like the growing religion there now. Number one. Number two, they have said, you know what, capitalism is okay as long as it can be, a dictatorial capitalism, which is, kind of weird, but you could see how that happens. And they've embraced, and what they've become is they become nationalistic, and they've become prideful. And although they're not projecting that out as we're better than you, you could, I mean, look at what's going on internally. If you're, I don't know the culture, but I know that, there's problems with I'm trying to say the Uyghurs or the
The Uyghur Muslims,
Uyghurs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's down the road. And what's down the road is, look, the Cold War never ended in part of Asia. This is a military person talking to me. The Cold War never ended. And while China had been humbled, China also has prospered. And while Japan has been humbled and made amends in terms of their mindset, China doesn't forget what they did, man. And it won't take much to get that going again. And that's from some friends of mine that are there. They're like, no, no, we don't like those people.
The rape of Nanking.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
and
think, I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, America being world police doesn't just apply to stuff like that. It also applies to we are keeping these two from killing each other.
Yep.
Now the cops are leaving and the two guys are still drunk.
Yep.
Do you think they're gonna hug? No, they're probably gonna beat the dog shit out of each other. Good luck.
I know.
America would have
Oh,
let this happen. Yeah, and the pay was, yeah, we're gonna kind of fuck you on inflation.
yeah.
Pick your
You know
evil.
what?
Pick your
It's
evil.
it's funny because, I remember the well, not too long ago, it was all about American companies, it's not really about the left. It's all about democracy. No, it's not. It's all about capitalism. You want to put your McDonald's there and to make our country safe for McDonald's. And so now, taking the other side of the coin, you're right. We're going to pull McDonald's out, and now let's see if it's safe for people in general. Good luck with that.
It the I got another show in a couple of minutes. We'll wrap it up with that thought. But
Yeah,
no, that's what I think, and that's beautiful. And I'm going to butcher it. But I was going to say you're going to miss the days where it was just memes about inflation.
yeah. You're
That's a
right.
good point. As
There-
the McDonald's is the canary, not for capitalism, for that there aren't death squads outside because
Yeah,
that doesn't
yeah.
look good for McDonald's.
A really good um, geopolitical analyst. I forget his name. He said, no matter how fucked up we are and how screwed up things get when we're doing something like that, you can rest assured that the reason that the United States was even welcomed into Korea to help, welcomed into Vietnam to help, and welcomed into some Latin American countries to help is because these countries know that where capitalism goes, democracy follows, and a chance to be self-governing happens. And it's not perfect, but it's way fucking better than what might be around the corner now.
It it's which gang do you want rolling up? There are people, the police are just a gang. Sure, they are. It's organized violence. Which gang do you want? MS-13 or the police? Are the police perfect? No. Is there abuse? Absolutely. Which
Right,
gang do you want to control? You can call it the police, you can call it MS-13. What it is it's centralized violence and matching uniforms for the most part. Which
right.
gang do you want? Which gang do you want? There's the American gang, where we also protect shipping lanes, or there's the other gang. And I don't care. We'll
Cold
wrap it
War
up.
II is gang warfare. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
No, we'll wrap it up. I gotta bounce. I got another show in a couple of minutes. Dude,
All
as
right,
always,
cool.
appreciate your time. I'll send this to you. It'll be uploaded today. All the links are in the description for everybody listening. And Vince, as always, man, good talking with you.
You too, Tommy.
No
Thanks
problem.
for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Very
much. Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this on to every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. Um, if you can support them for even $5, please do that. It is, they truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food, or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are, they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup, mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.